Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. This is Josh. I'm going to be your presenter today. Our topic today, before we get started, but our topic is donations, special gifts. All right, so as I indicated, we're considering these are donations, right? So we're going to be pretty much working in donations. Well, for the most part, we're going to be going into accounting later on for the dealing with the gift of stock as well. But we consider both in-kind or non-cash giving and gifts of stock special giving situations. They aren't normal, just folks walk into the church, they're attending, they give, throw a check or cash into the plate or, into their envelope and then give that to you. That's not, these are kind of unusual giving situations, okay? So we're going to talk about the in-kind gifts, okay, first. So basically, as the document indicates, there are situations in which people contribute non-cash items to the church in whatever capacity that is. Okay, they could be donating a car to the church, or even in some cases, giving a piece of property or land. But many times it's something fairly small and innocuous, or even if somebody's buying something for the church and then presenting the church with a receipt for something, that's still considered a non-cash or an in-kind item. The reason why we are treating these specifically and specially the way that we do is because we have not received anything we can physically deposit, okay? That's the challenge that comes with recording non-cash or in-kind giving. Someone gives something tangible to the church that is not a cash or check, and it simply cannot be deposited at the bank, okay? If we're entering the donation for in-kind giving as part of our regular donation batch, now I've started a batch for last Sunday here, okay? So I'm going to bring that up where I left off, and I'm going to say that somebody has given me an in-kind or non-cash item here that I want to be able to record and post for them, okay, or to include as part of their contributions to the church for the year. And I say that really quite kind of loosely on that because it is giving, but we're going to see what makes that unique, okay? If I enter this and put this here, so let's say Jan has presented us with, has purchased, say, pizzas for a youth lock-in on Friday night, okay? So they've prepaid those and are not giving us a cash, not giving us check to specify that they want it to be used for that. They've already paid for that. And now they want to receive credit for it on their giving statement. So I've received a receipt from them, and they're wanting me to record it on their giving statement. So again, if I enter this with a dollar amount, right, folks? So if I put this in here with the amount that's on the receipt, and I post that and add that to the batch, it's going to transfer into accounting, and it's going to post to one of my bank accounts into my checking account, okay, and credit typically into an income account for whatever that giving account is linked to, okay? Well, I haven't received anything to deposit. I've only received a receipt. So as the document talks about, choose to enter donations, enter the giver's name, leave the amount as zero, okay, over here to the right. Then I come down here and under my payment method, choose in kind. No check or reference number required, no donation comments. I also have a giving account in here. I think it's 999, non-cash giving, okay? The dollar amount remains zero to the right, and under comments, I can enter something like, pizza purchased for youth party, receipt received for $123.45, okay? So those comments, line item comments, the line item comments print automatically on the giving statement, okay? I can have the donation comments print on the giving statement if I want, but by default, the ones next to the amount are the ones that will print on the giving statement automatically. So now I'm going to add that to the batch. But now notice it is showing zero amounts. So it's not being included as part of our annual giving. Here's the deal, folks. When somebody gives a non-cash item to the church, it's technically not the church's responsibility, or it's not their, yeah, they're not responsible for determining its true deductible value, merely acceptance of the gift, and if there's an estimated or an approximate value for it, okay? Once it again shows up on their giving statement, then it's between the IRS and the giver to determine its actual true deductible value. But in this case, by confirming this, here's the receipt we received, what it was for. Jan can decide to put that on her, on her taxes as a tax deductible amount if she wishes, and then if the IRS has an issue with it, they can take it up with them, okay? But the church has fulfilled its obligation to verify receipt and acceptance of the item, okay? On my support calls, I also like to tell folks that in these types of situations, Jan could have received full credit for the item as part of her tax deductible giving for the year by pricing the item out for how much that would cost, giving me a check for $123.45 and specifying she wants it to be used, or they want it to be used for the youth party on Friday night for pizza. Okay, so just saying that's the nuance that comes with this. All right, so these comments, and I'll show you later on here where those comments will appear on Jan's giving statement. Okay, so automatically when I go into the details section of that. Won't be included as part of the total deductible giving for the year, okay? But it is going to be on there, and they will be able to prove for tax purposes what they gave, and the church is confirming that with those comments on there. But it is not included as part of her deductible giving, okay? The exception, as it points out, in this case, I'm not going to post this batch because I'm going to come back and post this batch. I'm going to add my gift of stock to this batch as well. Okay, so I'm just saving the batch for the time being before I post that. But as the document then further talks about, is the exception to the above is when an in-kind gift counts towards a pledge. Okay, so if a person has pledged and they go, okay, well, I gave something to the church with a value of it, and they go, I want it to apply to the value of my pledge that I promised for the year. There's one and only one way you can do this, okay? And that is to go up to special donations in the, I'm finding it here, prior system donations. Where is it here? I'm so sorry. Oh, it's under pledges. Sorry, my bad. So I go into pledges. We go here to pledges by giver. And then right here, let me get out my highlighter. And right here, I've got this button called Prior System Donations. All right, some of you may be familiar with this, but when I click on that, it opens up the Prior System Donations window, and I'd like to point out the wording that it has here, okay? It says, for pledging only, items entered here will not be recorded as donation transactions, okay? It is simply meant to be able to show an amount that is appearing against someone's pledge, but it's not being recorded in donations as an actual donation amount, okay? So if I pick somebody here in this list, say Mr. and Mrs. William Bell, here's their pledge for the general fund, okay? And they've given me something to apply to that pledge. I'm going to put in here, okay, here they've given me something for $250 estimated value for that, and I can put in comments, non-cash gift to apply to pledge, okay? So this then, when I add this to their record right here, it's going to go in and show in the field on their giving statement against the pledge called prior giving. And the $250 amount now is now showing having been paid or applied to their pledge, even though I've not received physically anything for it, but I've now honored their request and shown that $250 estimated value for that item has now been deducted from their annual pledge for 2025. Okay, so it's just important to understand that that's the only way to get a non-cash item to apply to a pledge. Doesn't show up as part of their total giving for the year, and that's what this, at the very bottom of the document on the in-kind giving says, will show up on the pledge report. It will. It will show up under prior giving. It will show up in the donation statement, account selection prior giving column, okay? And it cannot be transferred into accounting. It will not show up in browse donations. It won't show up on any donation or giving account report. It will not show up on the step report or giving summary, and it won't show up on the campaign comparison. So it is only being applied to their pledge in those limited places. Okay? And I'm not posting it as part of a batch. A lot of folks are unaware of this prior giving function in terms of how they do that. Sometimes I will use this feature if somebody calls me on a support call and says, hey, Josh, I didn't record a prepaid pledge correctly for somebody to apply, so I recorded it previously incorrectly in the wrong year. So, and they go, well, I don't want to go back and fix it correctly in donations. How do I get that fixed? Well, I'll take them into prior system donations and we'll record that there. Doesn't get recorded as giving. It doesn't show up on their statement in 2025 as giving a total at all. Just comes off the top of their pledge. That's it. Okay. So to get back to the non-cash giving in general, okay, to go back to that under our giving statements or our enter donations windows, okay, there are other ways to record this and have it apply to with a dollar amount, but we advise against it, okay? Essentially what you can do is you can go in and post a single gift batch with the amount for somebody and post it and then not transfer it into accounting. Check the box called do not transfer, okay? But why do we advise against this, you're asking? Well, because it creates discrepancies between the totals that are posted in donations and the amounts that are posted as donation transactions in accounting. It is that simple. I get that call all the time. I've got totals different in donations, Josh, for my total giving for the year than I show in accounting for the year for the same period. Why is that? And many times we'll come to find out somebody has recorded a non-cash or an in-kind gift in donations with a dollar amount in value that doesn't get transferred into accounting, okay, as it shouldn't, because if I did, it's going to show up on the bank reconciliation as a deposit, and it will never, excuse me, it'll never clear the bank because I haven't received something to physically deposit, okay? So there is a way to be able to work around and record the non-cash gift item in donations and not transfer it to accounting, but we're not suggesting you do that. In fact, we're discouraging you, we're encouraging you to do it this way here, okay? So as I had indicated before, all right, so let's come back to the posting of the batch here momentarily. Let's talk about gift of stock, okay? So we're going to shift over to document number 2 now, and then we're going to come back and take a quick look at donation statements at year end, or donation statements at the very end to see how those comments and things show up for those non-cash items, okay? The second document talks about there are oftentimes tax advantages involved for folks who choose to contribute stock directly to the church instead of selling it and then contributing the cash, okay? So basically this document outlines or details how that will often be done. Talk about setting up a stock account, asset account in the chart of accounts in accounting. So if we go into accounting and I go into my chart of accounts, I've set up an asset account in my chart of accounts called stock asset, okay? Yeah, you may also want to set up a separate fund for the income and expense accounts if needed. I can't stress that enough, if needed. But if the giver of the stock has said, okay, I want my gift to go, my stock to go to apply to my pledge, I can do that. So I don't necessarily have to set up a specific stock income account or stock expense. You could even go to the extent of setting up a specific fund. And what I mean by fund is down here under my fund balance accounts, right, called stock fund. But I'm typically only going to consider doing that if the church really is intending on when they receive ownership of the stock or it's transferred to the church and they actually own it, are they going to be keeping it, okay? It all depends on what the church's intent is with regards to what they intend to do with that stock after they then own it, okay? If they're going to turn around once it gets transferred into the church's, ownership, then are they going to turn around and sell it right away and surrender that? If so, I'm not going to set up a fund for that, okay? I'm going to just set up the stock asset, post my gift, transfer it in there, deal with all the fees, commissions, gains, losses, get it to the net amount, transfer it into my checking account, okay, for whatever the proceeds amount is that I received, okay? So you can get into a really, really detailed level of minutia when dealing with a gift of stock, but in our situation, the church has no intention of hanging on to that stock for any longer than they have to. We're going to surrender that, sell that, and surrender that pretty much right away as soon as we get it. So I'm not going to set up the fund, but I do have, I do have some other accounts set up for that. So like I've got a stock asset, but I also have a commissions and fees expense account here, okay, that are basically meant to absorb or pay for those expenses for those gains and losses in those stock accounts, or that stock account. That's what I'll use for that, okay? But again, that document at the top does detail everything, all of the accounts that you may want to consider setting up, and at least the minimum, all right? So if we go back to known donations, I've even got a giving account in my donations accounts for stock, okay? So if we now put in here and we go, okay, Mel Miller, he's giving us a stock gift, and the value that he needs to have appear on his giving statement is $23,456.78, okay? Right down here under payment method, I can choose stock. You can see here it's applying to his general fund current pledge, okay? All right, that's fine because I am transferring it, okay? Now, this is where things get to be challenging, is if I have other general fund monies, this is going to all want to go into my general checking account with my other money that I have posting on that. So this may be better for me to post as a separate batch if I wanted to apply to his pledge. So that's what I'm going to do. I am not going to post that gift for him here. I'm going to clear that donations, and I'm going to post my regular batch and transfer that into accounting, then come back in and enter Mel's. And you'll see why here in a minute, okay? So we're going to take the rest of our batch that we've already got for last Sunday, and we're going to post that and transfer that, okay? I'm not going to print it. Now opens up my transfer to accounting window, and now notice when I click on my plus sign here, nowhere in here does my in-kind gift for my non-cash giving show. Why? Because there's nothing to transfer to accounting. Remember, the dollar amount was zero. There's nothing to post. Okay? So here's my breakdown of my whole 1255. Everything's good here. I can go ahead and post that into accounting. Okay? I'm going to post it again. Refers me back to my posted transfers. Now I'm going to go back in and I'm going to record Mel's gift for his gift of stock. Now typically that wouldn't occur on a Sunday. I could make it any date I want. If it was ownership was transferred midweek, I may want to make this the 18th. Okay. So here I'm going to choose Mel Miller. I'm going to enter his amount of his gift, $23,456.78. His amount is gift of stock. Here's applying to the general fund, done, add to batch. And I can enter donation comments if I wish, done, add to batch. Now I'm going to do post and transfer just like I would normally. Yeah, it's telling me it doesn't fall on a standard Sunday posting date. Great, continue, yes. Print to no. Now here, at my transfer donations to accounting window, I can now change my Huntington Bank checking to stock asset. I'm only doing this because he wants it to apply to his pledge. Otherwise, I would post this to my stock account. If my person has not specified what they want their gift to, I'm going to post it to my stock giving account. Otherwise, I want it to apply to his pledge, so I'm going to change it to my stock asset here. I just want to point out, under my default account links tab here, if I scroll down, notice my stock gifts is linked to my stock asset and to my education building fund contribution income account, because that's where my church chooses to post those stock monies. Okay? Going back to our transfer to accounting, I've now changed it to my stock asset, leave it in general tithes and offerings. Perfect, that's where that goes. I'm going to now post. Okay, so it now goes to my stock asset. All right, so now the work is all done in accounting now. to deal with how I deal with that balance in that account. All right, so I'm done in donations. Mel's gotten credit for his stock gift. All right, so now when we go into chart of accounts, we go to the stock asset, I go to balance. There it is, as of August, 23,456.78. Okay, so now let's say we're selling that stock. Okay, it has some gains. So we're going to enter some gains into that. So we're going to go to up here to transactions, other, and adjust asset. It's a journal entry. I could go to enter income too. Okay, so here I would do stock, asset. I'm going to increase it, $978, $987. Okay, and I'll say that occurred, next week. And I can do gains on stock. Down here, I would choose gains loss on investments, and I'm going to put in the same amount. Okay? And I'm going to post that. So I've added that in. Not going to print it. Okay? Now I've also got a fee or commission that I had to pay to the brokerage firm to sell that. It's probably would be higher than the amount that I'm going to be posting for that, but I'm going to do it up for the amount I'm doing anyway. So I'm going to do another adjust asset or a journal entry transaction. Either way, they're both journal entries. So I'm now going to choose my stock asset again. Okay. I'm going to decrease it by $100. That's the amount of the commission. And I'm going to post that again for next week. When I surrender it, commission for sale of stock. Okay. And I'm going to click down here. I'm going to choose my commission expense, fees, and I'm going to enter that again as $100. And I'm going to post. Okay. No, not going to print it. So now my last and final transaction is when I've now received that proceeds check from the stock, the brokerage house, brokerage firm, go to transactions, transfer. I'm going to enter my date. Let's say I receive that, right after Labor Day holiday next month. Here I choose my stock asset as my from account. I'm going to send it to my general checking, my Huntington Bank checking. There it is. And the amount is on that account that I had is $24,343.78. I know that's there. So now I choose the payment method that they've sent it to me. We're going to say that they transferred it to us electronically, though I could enter manual check and put in a check number. And I'm going to turn that back on and I'm going to say proceeds from sale of stock. Okay. So then I'm going to go down here and click Done, Add to Batch. And as I like to do a lot, folks, show running balance. Now notice that our stock asset started the day with the $24,343.78. Its transaction effect was the opposite of that. And my stock asset is now zero. And the money is now in my Huntington Bank checking after I post it, of course. So I'm using the show running balance window to confirm that the stock asset account is clear, that anything that I've posted into it in terms of gains and losses and commissions and things like that, and ultimately the transfer out for the proceeds is done correctly. If that did not have a zero adjusted balance, I would have done something wrong and I would have to figure that out, okay? But it is correct and I will now post that, okay? So with just a couple minutes left, folks, that again is typically how a gift of stock is going to be handled in both donations and accounting, okay? Now, I did promise you at the very beginning here that I would go back into donations and look at some statements for some folks here to show how those donation statements appear, okay? So here we are. We're going to go to step 2, and we're going to bring up our donation statements for 64 and 45 because those were the two that we had, those showing up for those special situations. So I'm going to do uncheck print for all, uncheck email for all, and we're going to find 45 was Jan. She was the one I posted the non-cash gift for. Now when I print it, I'm going to choose my template windowed envelope. So right here in the center of the screen, everybody, hopefully I'll get my highlighter out and show you. 817 non-cash div 0 pizza pre-purchase for youth per party. Receipt received $123.45. Okay. Those line item comments print right on or below with the transaction with the $0 amount to confirm that we received what we received from that giver and what it was to be applied for. Okay. If yours don't appear, then you'll want to use the statement designer to go in and figure out why that is and get that fixed. Okay. You can use the statement designer to fix that if you wish. So let's uncheck Jan and let's go back to 64 for Bill Bell. And we're going to go to print email statements again. And again, I want to have you see here how it shows the $250 that I had entered as the non-cash item under prior giving, prior system donations right here for the prior giving to show that it has deducted or been applied to his pledge. Okay? So I just wanted to confirm those for you as promised to make sure that you did see that they do report the way that we are needing and wanting them to report on the people's giving statements. Okay? All right, folks, that's 30 minutes of me talking. That is where we are going to leave our topic for today.